All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, for the fourth time in the last 5 years, the Portland Trailblazers are headed home in the first round of the NBA playoffs. As this time around, it was the Denver Nuggets who were too much for them. And you look at this series, Denver simply wore Portland down. And most importantly, Portland never had an option or an answer, rather, for Nugget center Nikola Jokic as he ran wild, as he averaged 33 points along with 10 and a half boards in this playoff series. Now, Portland did counter with point guard Damian Lillard, who had a big series, more than 34 points per game, more than 10 assists per contest. And of course, he had that 55 point performance, which unfortunately for Portland came in one of the losses in the series. Now, Portland did have five guys average in double figures in points in this series, but you know what? Their woes were on defense again because Jokic just did whatever he wanted. They never had an answer for him, and they never slowed Denver down at the defensive end, and it caught up with him. You look at this for Terry Stotts as the Blazers head coach, the sixth time in his 9-year stretch that Portland was sent home in the first round of the playoffs, and of course, this most recent first round exit resulted in Portland and Terry Stotts parting ways. You look at it and what you've seen from Portland in the past few years. I said it several years ago, and it is true steadfast. And that is that the outside inside game is not working in the NBA anymore. And the bottom line is the Warrior style is getting played out. And I say that because, people saw what Golden State did when they had that 5-year stretch where they won 3 NBA championships. And a lot of teams out there have attempted to emulate what Golden State did. But, like I said before, people fail to realize that what helped Golden State win those championships was the fact that they had two of the better perimeter shooters of all time in Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. And then, of course, once you factor Kevin Durant into that mix, you know what? They were off to the races. Three of the best shooters ever. And, with that said, it made it very difficult for teams to double team each of those respective players. Then on top of that, you had a good facilitator at the power forward position in Draymond Green. And, all of those things factored in together. That is why Golden State was able to win. You look at a lot of these teams around the league, they don't have the consistent outside shooting that Golden State did, yet they still try to go out there and use that same system. And, Portland's strength right now is their backcourt, Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. But the bottom line is until they get more consistency up front and until they start to feed the ball inside the paint more, these are the results that are going to happen. I mean, remember, Damian Lillard was always a part of good Portland teams. Before that, there was more balance. You had the likes of LaMarcus Aldridge, Nicholas Batum, and Wesley Matthews. And all of these guys left Portland in free agency in the same year. So, of course, Damian Lillard became the go-to guy for Portland. So I look at it right now, granted, Damian Lillard still is the best player on this team. But again, Portland needs more in their front court if they're going to take that next step. I mean, you look at some of the top teams in the West right now. For an example, you could take a look at this series right here with the Nuggets. I mean, what did they have to slow down Nikola Jokic? What did they have to make Nikola Jokic work on the defensive end? Absolutely nothing. You look at the Los Angeles Lakers, who won the NBA championship from last year. It's a situation, if you're Portland and you have to go through the Lakers, you got to deal with Anthony Davis. And, Portland does not have anybody to match up with AD consistently, nor slow somebody of his caliber down. So, this is going to be a very important offseason for Portland because now they have to find a new head coach. They have to find a head coach that is going to be on the same page with Damian Lillard because obviously he expressed a lot of frustration following the series loss to Denver. And, I could understand that because you're getting to the playoffs every year if you're Lillard. You're getting to the All-Star game consistently. You're rubbing elbows with the top players around the league. And you're putting in that work, but you know what? You don't have the results to show for it come May and June when it comes down to winning the NBA championship. And, it has to be frustrating, consistently getting bumped out in the first round of the playoffs, in spite of the fact that that you're a talented team. But, nonetheless, like I said before in previous podcasts, the Western Conference is so doggone tough. And I knew that it was going to be a dogfight this season. And we're seeing that because, Portland had the ability to make a deeper playoff run. I totally get that, and I totally understand that. But it's just the fact that they ran into a Denver team that was better than them. They ran into a Denver team that had more presence in their front court because aside from Jokic, you also had to worry about Michael Porter Jr. as well as Aaron Gordon. So, if you're Portland, you know what? These are the things that you got to deal with, and these are the hurdles that you got to try to get over going forward. But you look at next season, Portland already has more than $131 million set for their cap, with 80 of that going to Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum alone. Like I said, they have to go out there and find a new head coach. And then, there are also questions that need to be answered with this team. Is this going to be it for Carmelo Anthony with Portland? Carmelo is one of the better scorers of his era, definitely going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And you look at it, he had the bulk of his career with Denver and the New York Knicks. And, for whatever reason, he got the dry shave from the NBA when he was looking for a new team a couple of years ago, and Portland gave him the opportunity, and he has shown that he still has what it takes to get it done. We'll have to wait and see if a new regime believes that Carmelo is going to fit into their plans. But I think the bottom line is Portland, regardless who the head coach is going to be for next season, Portland has to get tougher at the defensive end of the floor, because you've got to go out there and you got to be able to make those stops in those key moments. And if you are unable to do that, you're not going to go that far in the postseason. It's very rarely that you can see a team that is going to be able to consistently ride their offense alone to winning an NBA championship. It's few and far between when you see a situation like that. You got to go out there and you got to make those stops on D. Portland is not equipped for that right now. And, you're looking at this dynamic, it's not just a CJ McCollum, Damian Lillard thing. We see it with so many teams where they rely so heavily on their backcourt. You look at Washington with Bradley Beal and, Russell Westbrook. Prior to that, with Russell Westbrook and James Harden, the same deal. You can't rely on your backcourt to carry you consistently, and you can't rely solely on that jump shot to consistently get the job done. Portland has run into problems in the postseason before. We saw them a couple of years ago where they were a 3 seed out west. And you know what? They ran into the New Orleans Pelicans, and the Pelicans swept them. And why? Because, again, Portland never had an answer for Anthony Davis. So until you are able to rectify that problem, if you're the Trailblazers, I don't care who you bring in as your head coach. You're not gonna be able to get that far in the playoffs. Even if you win a series, that's probably going to be it. But you look at it right now, if Portland is not able to rectify this problem sooner rather than later, they're going to have a very unhappy camper on their hands in Damian Lillard, because at some point you're already hearing rumors and teams are talking about, well, you know what, we'd welcome Damian Lillard with open arms, and rightfully so. But the thing is this, if they are not able to rectify this problem soon and get some more balance with some consistent front court scoring, they're going to have a very unhappy camper on their hands. And it's one thing that we've seen in recent years in the NBA. When you have an unhappy star player on your team, it's the best thing to do to try to get him out of there. If not, try to put some talent around him to make him happy. Other than that, you're going to have a problem. But the way that the Blazers are structured right now, nothing is going to change, because the Western Conference is still going to be very tough next year. You have a Lakers team that is looking to, retool following their loss in the first round. The Phoenix Suns look like they are up and coming. You have the Utah Jazz. The Memphis Grizzlies are a hungry team. We don't know what we're going to get from Golden State next season. You still have the Denver Nuggets with Jokic. The Dallas Mavericks are right there. We have to wait and see what happens with the Clippers. But make no mistake about it, if you are the Blazers, basically right now, you're getting lost in the shuffle. So if you're Neil O'Shea, the guy who is running this front office for Portland, you have to ask yourself, what are you going to be able to do to get this team over the hump for the 2021-2022 NBA season. And if you don't, you're gonna have a very unhappy camper on your hands in Damian Lillard. The Blazers are good and they are a good basketball team, but being good and finding a way to get over that hump in the playoffs are two different things. And again, the Western Conference is so difficult. You have to be able to bring it, and you have to have a team that is built to last out west. Right now, the Blazers don't have it, and that is a big reason why they are home watching the rest of this postseason. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. Take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.